There used to be a time where some hyper PlayStation fans could raise their heads and beat their chest about PlayStation pretty much dominating in the market. The last time I think this was in the PlayStation 4 days and a little bit into this new console generation. However, a lot of that hubris is now being checked and challenged. The industry is changing. PlayStation is running helter-skelter to bring its games to PC. When you look at, say, all of the talk about, oh, we're only going to bring our tentpole games to the PC platform or whatever it is people made up in their heads compared to, say, the live service games, it appears that that line has been blurred because at first it used to be that you waited much longer before you saw a PlayStation game on PC. Now you're seeing some of them show up day and date, like Lego Horizon Adventures. I've seen a lot of PlayStation fans try to drop it like a hot potato, but here's the reality. This game needs sales. So not only is it going on PC day one, it's also moving a PlayStation game willingly. I guess you say not, there's no way to put it, whether willingly or not willingly, because the market is pushing it. So whether or not PlayStation wants it, the market says if they don't actually want it, then they can go out of business. And so they're moving Horizon Adventures to the Switch, another platform. In the past, they moved MLB The Show because MLB saw that there's money to be made and decided we need to move this to a different platform. Or you need to get the license, we'll get it to somebody else. PlayStation agreed to that and said, sure, let's put it on Xbox. So because of these sales necessities, a lot of the so-called talk about being a hyper fanboy, like this one, the infamous one from Twitterer and YouTuber JDubCity16, is now become something of history. Like when in 2018, he said Starfield and Elder Scrolls PS6 exclusive. Now, you could tell that there was a lot of hubris here. A lot of these PlayStation fanboys, the hyper ones, really did think that somewhere, somehow, PlayStation would successfully money hat these games because they've been using the money hat strategy to make themselves look more competitive. Now that I think the level, the playing field is basically leveled out, PlayStation has decided, well, we'll give you Bethesda games when we feel like it. I think now PlayStation has to, in a sense, come up with something. And I've said it before that their strategy is going to PC. However, in this video, I'm going to give you 4 reasons why I think this is very necessary, especially with the Spider-Man side and also with possible games coming in the future. And I think you're probably going to realize that apparently the situation may be a little bit more dire. I wouldn't say much more dire, just a little bit more dire than many would probably claim it to be. The first reason I think this Spider-Man game is coming to the PlayStation platform, or I guess the PC platform from the PlayStation platform, is simply because of Concord. Now, Concord is the one game that we all know pretty much lost PlayStation a ton of money. If you actually consider right now how that game's expenses would have actually dialed, down from the math perspective, you'll realize that this game was significantly more expensive than any other game out there. The first estimates that we got was somewhere around $200 million. I mean, this is pretty much development cost. Now, if you also take Insomniac being acquired for $229 million and then also the Spider-Man game, putting the Spider-Man game in context seems like it's probably going to be a little bit more. However, we don't know how much the studio that was developing Concord was acquired for. So some numbers we got moved everything to around 400 million, and some people are even moving all of it to about $1 billion. If it was that much, I can see reason why PlayStation still has on the back end updates going out for Concord. I think the game is being modified. So I think that's one major reason that you're seeing these, shifts, and especially with the Spider-Man game coming to the PC platform. The second reason I think may not be too obvious, but I think it's market pressure that's probably being caused by services like Game Pass. Now, Game Pass for the most part has always been underplayed. When we've had these conversations, all I've heard from a lot of hyper PlayStation fanboys is how Game Pass does not seem to hold that much weight. But here's where I disagreed with everybody. Actually, it wasn't me who disagreed with everybody. It was PlayStation themselves who disagreed with everybody. PlayStation went ahead and in these Insomniac leaks that I think have spurred on this whole thing that we're seeing Spider-Man on PC much earlier is partially because this Game Pass threat, according to what PlayStation calls it, is a real one. You see, back then, apparently, PlayStation was doing some sort of a war game, checking the scenario where Activision will be acquired by Xbox and what possibly could happen. And in their own analysis, they deemed it a threat if Call of Duty were to enter into the Xbox ecosystem. They also deemed it a threat because they understood that Microsoft's comprehensive ecosystem, read along with me, coupled with exclusivity creates greater dominance. Now, the Call of Duty play was not an exclusivity play, but Jim Ryan had already said this in an email after speaking with Kotick and Spencer. However, they knew that a possible day and date threat after the acquisition of Activision was going to be a thing that they needed to look out for. And they said post-acquisition, Microsoft will put Activision games on Game Pass day and date. And understanding the strategic incredible value, that's what they call it, that actually provided in a live service games, in mobile, and on the PC storefront, they realized that, man, this Game Pass is really going to put a dent in our business model. And so this is probably why Jim Ryan was running all over the place, talking to regulators about possibly receiving a less, I guess he called it a lower quality version, which I think is a version on parity at the end of the day with all the others, as something that would harm PlayStation's business irreparably. So when you think about all of this, this is, in my opinion, a second reason why you're seeing the market push for this game to move its way to PC as fast as possible. Another reason is obviously, and if you've been in a bubble and you don't know, the leaks. When the Insomniac leaks actually, had its big, huge effect on Insomniac because hackers somehow got a hold of a lot of their data, people were talking about this, but I saw what I call the Xbox tax and the PlayStation favorability from some news outlets, or I guess gaming talking heads, I won't call them news outlets, that in a sense grew a moral fiber not to talk about Insomniac's leaks. But ladies and gentlemen, these were actually very critical because a lot of PlayStation fans tried to deny those leaks. They said they were fake. Some people said, well, I'm going to trust it when it comes from official sources. Well, whether or not you trusted them, because we know they were official, we saw a lot of this stuff, the effects are actually right here in front of you. And with those leaks came a build of this game for PC that made its way out in the wild. Apparently that build got worked on, for a long amount of time, and pirates were able to get their hands on it and have finished compiling the entire game that's playable on PC. PlayStation right now has to pretty much stop that bleeding as well, with all of the above put in perspective. I mean, think about it. Your game is out there that you wanted to basically hold, for a while and make it seem like it's a big deal. However, because of an unfortunate reason, poor security measures that you've pretty much not implemented, or at least I guess I would say you implemented poor security measures, didn't bother to implement much better security measures, your files are out there. And we know PlayStation is notorious for security issues, especially with PSN getting hacked over and over again. So this is something that pretty much, bit them in the butt. And these leaks have pretty much provided for everybody what it is that they wanted to see. Not only that, if you also add the reality that, ladies and gentlemen, when you think about it, after you sit and wait for a game for so many years, you get to watch videos and see stuff about the game. And a lot of your interest in the game eventually, it just dampens. It's just the reality of things. So putting that also in the whole mix, you can see how PlayStation has probably put itself in a bind. And if it has intentions to bring its game to PC, to me, it doesn't make sense why they don't just do it day and date. The final thing I want to talk about in this video, and I'm sure the 4 reasons are just a small number, is the fact that this game is expensive. You see, Marvel Spider-Man 2, when you look at those same leaks, the one that people decided to bury their heads in the sand against, you will realize that Marvel Spider-Man 2 has cost the studio a lot of money. Every single sale that they make for this game will have a cut that goes to Marvel. That's a back-end cost that's not even being factored on top of the front-end cost by a lot of people. So 12 million copies may be all well and good, including the 20-something million copies that were sold for the first game, but realize that every time they've sold any of those copies, they've had to give Marvel a cut from each sale. So Spider-Man 2 is not going to be exempt from this particular arrangement. In fact, when we saw the leaks, it was quite interesting to see that they said in order for them to break even, they had to, sell 7.2 million copies. Now, I'm not really certain if that was just a break even for development cost, which I think that would probably be it. And then profits later on will be split by and large with Marvel. So seeing these industry shifts at the end of the day, I don't think it's, it's a huge leap to say that these PlayStation games are going to be making their way to PC closer and closer from a conservative perspective. But if you really wanted to go to town, it's day and date for everything. because the so-called day and dates for specific games thing just doesn't really make a lot of sense, simply because a lot of these games, at the end of the day, still need the exact same thing, which is a huge burst of sales. What's even funny right now is how whenever you say the words that a PlayStation game probably needs to consider going to Xbox, a lot of people raise their hands up and throw a fit, when in reality, every other competitor of a game like Helldivers 2 is available on every other platform. So if PlayStation is to compete and actually move its, perspective, or I guess its focus to live service, it needs to change its understanding of exclusivity, because live service games, they thrive when more people play them. I mean, if PlayStation were to even look in its own backyard, it will realize that the majority of games that people are playing on PlayStation have availability attached to them. You see, it's no longer one of these things where you can just pretty much sit down and bury your head in the sand, while Call of Duty and Epic Games and EA and every other publisher who's serious about making software money publishes their games on your platform while your own players are playing them, but you don't have anything else for the other side. This is what Xbox has realized in for the most part in a larger perspective, and that's why they're comfortable just bringing their games as they want to another platform. Sea of Thieves has benefited from this. So PlayStation needs to explore this, at least in order for them to be able to, in my opinion, make the money that they're looking for, so that the single player games are not, going crazy. But I digress. I think they've put themselves in a rock and a hard place. But I think in the end of the day, what's going to happen is the market is going to prove them or make them shatter. I guess if they want to be proven, they need to come out strong. And if they don't want to be proven to be, to come out strong, then I guess they can probably maybe, in a sense, vacate the business. But I doubt PlayStation would do that. I think they're going to adjust, but they're adjusting much slower than can help them, on the long term, in my opinion. But let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching the video. Appreciate you guys' time and audience. Hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.